Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. I want to start right away with some of the programs that we have been familiar with in the past. For instance, we used to have programs, you remember like the one in South Africa, 1996, the future, you know what I mean, the global movement in Islam or something like that, yeah. Well,
Islamic awakening.
Well, it was definitely about the future of the global Islamic movement in the world or something like that, of creating a new global civilization. Yeah, creating a new global civilization of Islam. And those type of programs brought out a lot of thinkers, and for instance, we used to have a lot of those programs, and one of the things that was required that the speakers, of course I didn't do it, but they would write a paper like this paper. This is Mustaqbal al-Haramain, the future of the Haramain, or the future of Hajj. We used to have Hajj programs at least once every summer in Canada, in Europe, and it was about the future of the Haramain, because the Saudis called themselves Qadim al-Haramain, the keepers of the two holy places in Islam. And we were saying that you were not the keepers of the holy places in Islam. And on top of that, the beautiful thing about the Gulf War of 1991 was that the Saudis called the United States to protect them. So it was clear, you didn't call on Allah, you didn't call on the Ummah, you called on the Americans. And they came and they protected you. So the Americans would be the keepers of the Haramain, not you, right? Because they're your keepers. And now it's even more clear. So the future of the Haramain. Now, the political significance of Hajj, that's Yunus Muhammad of Nigeria. That means that this whole paper right here is presented by a known professor in Islam, and they're from all over the world. You'll see that these people came from all over the world. And his subject was political significance of Hajj. Okay, now, to me, now you got to remember in those days, there would be a table with all of these articles on it. And what would I do? I would come by and I would pick them all up and I would read them all. Imagine the education I'm getting. I would take every last one of them, whether it was in Iran, whether it was in London, whether it was in Canada, wherever they was. And so, this one was January 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 9th, 1988. And then the future of Haramain and the emerging political power of Islam. This is Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui. Aisha Muhammad, Muslim women in Hajj, a critical view. Remember, I'm reading all of this, and this is just a few that I brought. I'm reading all of these too. Civilizational role of Hajj, Dr. Rashid Mutan, Bayero University, Kano, Nigeria. Dr. Mahmood Abdul Rahman Faisal, Pakistan, Saudi use of Haramain and Hajj for political ends. So this is a Pakistani. Remember, just imagine all the views that I'm getting of Hajj just from this one conference. These are the resolutions after the Hajj. You know, after the program, the future of Haramain, we would have outlines on resolution. A world seminar convened by the Muslim Institute met in London from January 6th to the 9th, 1988. Among the 400 participants were many ulama and intellectuals, as well as those active in the Islamic movement. In all parts of the world, representing 40 states, the participants also represented all Islamic schools, the majority consisting of Sunni Muslims. The seminar was called specifically to consider the issue of the future of Haramain in Mecca. And the Haramain, the Sirah and the Sunnah, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That was just now. At that time, you could imagine all of this knowledge is, you're just soaking it up. That's why after a few years, you could be asked any question about political movements, where they're from, who they are, and you would know based on your association with the Islamic movement, you would know the Nigerian position, the Pakistani position, and you're dealing with these people all the time. This is the 7th Islamic Thought Conference. This looks like it's in Iran. Secularism and its impact on Hajj operations in Nigeria by Hussein Akandi Abdul Rahim, Associate Professor of Biochemistry, Head of the Department of Biochemistry, University of Maiduguri, that's Nigeria. But that's his issue, the secularism and its impact on Hajj operations in Nigeria. What do the Saudis do to them in Nigeria? What is the game they play, the Saudi embassy, right? When you read other literature, you read all the literature on the Sokoto Caliphate, how big it was, and its leaders, and what its impact was on us even here today. The different stages, the evolutionary processes that it went through itself. And then a lot of the people that we're studying about, they were members or still members of those historical groups. Current developments in the Middle East by Umar M. Birai, Department of Political Science, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, again, Nigeria. And remember, I not only picked all these articles, I still got them. You know, they didn't went through soaking and weddings, you know. Sometimes boss man try to get rid of the literature, so he'll zip a little water in on you, and you'll have to rescue. When you come back, you'll have to rescue, you know, the water damage. But boss man have been successful. I had that little house over there, 4481. I had it stretched out full of literature, drying out a few years ago. It was just all drying out, you know. And no. So, a decade of revolutionary Islam and the struggle to end Tabligh, of world arrogance of the East and the West. This is a good one, Muslim-orientated Christian mission. This is Dr. Zafarul Islam Khan. He's a brother from India, Pakistan. He's a friend of mine. and he wrote a very good book on the same subject. Director of the Institute of Islamic and Arabic Studies. Now, you have to see that all of these people are scholarly. You know, they're bookish type people, bookish activists. Academics, yeah. But it's okay. Because see, when you get involved in movement, Maulana Maududi gave a tafsir class on the radio in Pakistan in 1941, that era. And from those programs on the radio is where we get Tafhim Quran, understanding Quran. For us, it was one of the best tafsir of Quran. In the early days, for us, actually it was the best. I remember in '89, when I went to Iran, I went to Pakistan. When I come back to Pakistan, at first, now it's in 6 volumes, that printing. They have a modern translation by a group in London. But I like the old one, and that old, it had, when I first ran across it, I was going to Masjid Muhammad in Oakland, but I would go to a tafsir class on Thursday night over at the Islamic Center in San Francisco. That was almost 50 years ago. That was in the middle 70s. I came out of, middle of the end. I came out of Leavenworth in 76. And so I had read, I was familiar with Maulana Maududi's writings. In fact, our masjid in Oakland was called Masjid al-Maududi, in 1980 and all that, because at that time, Maulana Maududi for Sunnis represented the Islamic movement. And in fact, it was a strange thing between Arabs and Pakistanis. Arabs felt themselves on a light decline when Imam Hassan al-Banna has been martyred, the Islamic Ikhwan al-Muslimin have been having, so they were looking toward, at our tafsir class, all the Arabs there, and the Arabs they were students at UC Berkeley, and this is the first time I was looking at all of their books at UC Berkeley on it, and they were all in Arabic. They was getting their tafsir from the University of California at Berkeley. And that's when I realized how deep those libraries was, So I started visiting them too, getting books on masonry and everything. In those years, half of the stuff we was getting was, anyway, it was kind of a little mixture here and there. But all of those books, we had about 3 or 4 small volumes of Maulana Maududi's Tafhim al-Quran. And somebody, one of the brothers, his mother or father donated a whole lot of English books. I got some of them right now. The Quranic Structure of Islamic Society or something like that. All of those. Man, can you imagine those days I'm getting all those books in this? Hey man. And I told everybody at the Masjid in Oakland, hey man, I got all these books. We can, they said, shoot, we gotta check them books out and see if they're okayed by the chief, which they never got any. They just, it took them years to get what they could have got. Anyway, right now what we're suggesting is this. We're suggesting that the Islamic Republic or some of the people in charge of certain activities, that we reestablish these type of programs. Except for right now, they don't have to be, you go to Iran, or you go here, and you go there. We can Zoom these in. You know, and we could plan, and I'm talking to anybody that's listening. You could, Thanksgiving could be the first one. That'd give enough time to get it all together. People could send in their, to a certain post box or address, you know, or what have you. Or they have a center where they're gonna do the central broadcasting. It could be a good 3 or 4 day program. And that would be the first one. Here's what we're saying. All of these, you could see that we were taking charge of the narrative on how to remain and all other questions. We have handed over that narrative to other people who don't want, who just zip their mouth up, right? So now we want to influence the people by influencing the subjects. For now, what the subject we talk about, write your own history. Well, the Quran says read your own book. Well, if you're going to read your own book, right, you have to write the book. All the angels are doing are recording, right? They're recording your deeds and actions. They're not writing anything other, because the Quran refers to them as something like Karim, and they're honorable scribes, right? They're honorable scribes. They just write down, okay, so now, with all of the different things that are going on in the world now, and a lot of them have to do with Muslims, we should take charge of the narrative, shape and form the ideas, just like we did then. Shape and form the ideas of what we should be thinking about, visionary, and how we can shape and form the ideas of the Ummah and motivate the Ummah, right? We should take charge of that instead of being a conference like the one we went to over there. It looked like there was dead people there. Well, it was dead. They might as well be dead. Nobody just shot them. But other than that, it was no energy. It was no enthusiasm. Just visualize the enthusiasm and that these types of program had. All right. So this is our suggestion, that we present papers. That means when you write a paper, you have to think it out, you know what I mean? And many of these people are used to this. I never wrote out papers because I was better at speaking. But by the time I zip through, and I go back to my room at night and I read all of these things, zip, 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 the outline, pretty soon you're up on the whole show anyway. Imagine when you come out, you're unifying everybody. And that's the same, that's what Dr. Kaleem Siddiqui was talking about. See, our relationship was at this very conference in London. We're counting on you. I said, oh, Doc, take it easy, I got it covered. My job was kind of like Siraj's now. Be in tune with everybody and unify everybody. When we leave there, we're one people. All the other guys are just running their mouth. They're nice guys, but they're thinking about their lecture, right? We're thinking about not only the program and its success, but where we're going, who we are, you know. So you can link everything together. I remember one program, it was mostly Kashmiris in Pakistan. I linked the, the transition from India to Pakistan and all the people that was killed during that period in 1947 with our mid-Atlantic transition. The only thing is, I gave them a surface view that I thought was true, and 1 million people, they just after it was over, 3 or 4 people came up. It was 5 million, maybe 10 million. But other than that, you should have saw the Kashmiris from Kashmir feeling at home with us in our situation right here. We can do the same thing again. That's part of what that's part of our mission. And of course, you would see in the paper, U.S. Israel cannot stop Muslim uprising, Imam Abdul-Alim. And there's a nice article in there. They don't put them in there no more, but this terrorizing times, it's no problem. Take charge of our own future, right? And then imagine our people that's on the level that they're on now, they've only heard some of the nice people out at whatever they are out there. Is that 18th Street or something like that? Yeah. Okay. Well, they've only heard, the people have only heard what they hear around here. And they don't come here. Right? So their mind has to be, the Quran and Hadith are historical, inspirational things to read. Like reading the Bible. They're not things that you do. You see what I mean? You don't do that. The way we read it, this is what it says, this is what we do. Right? That's all okay. Now, imagine all the young people after a few years there, and especially when we start having those conferences again. But they don't have to be conferences where you have to spend a lot of money. Right? Like these right here, we can do it on the Zoom and all of that. And it could be, we'll start off with a nice 2-3 day conference. The ones that's put together will put together an agenda, and everybody will be able to go on the website and see the agendas.